I have an idea for a game. Imagine for a moment that you are a UNSC Marine from the Halo franchise. And that's it. That's the whole fucking game. Hear me out. There's way too many people out there, myself included, that long for a type of game that I feel like no one has made, and that frankly devs are kind of afraid to make. In my video about Grunt games needing more spotlight than they get, thousands of people commented that they want games where they're a background soldier, a nobody, forced to essentially be an NPC while the hero goes off and does all of the hero shit. But think about that for a second. What if we had a game where we weren't the main character? Hell, a game where we aren't even part of the main character's inner circle. That kind of shooter could be called the nobody shooter. And I really feel like so many people out there yearn for a game just like that. Okay, so back to imagining we're that UNSC Marine. It could start you out as a brand new green-ass Marine in training, knowing nothing about the Covenant and only hearing myths about the Spartan program. And then boom, you're thrust into the chaos that is the Halo storyline. If you really think about the vastness of these stories, especially ones like Halo, Warhammer 40k, the odds of even seeing a hero unit while being a nobody background grunt is astronomically small. Like those Marines that kept running into Master Chief during the operation must have thought they were seeing a demon manifest. Granted, in Halo, the air of mystery around the Chief isn't as great as, say, Space Marines of Warhammer 40k. I loved how in the Space Marine 2 trailer, the Guardsman, exhausted, wounded, and on the brink of being overrun by Tyranids, peered up to witness what I'm sure would be the equivalent of seeing a unicorn. The Space Marines are often referred to as the Emperor's Angels, not only for being the living weapon delivering the will of the Emperor one bolter round at a time, but due to them being such a rare sighting by normal humans. Seeing one must have felt like you were literally looking at an angelic being sent by the gods, because your situation is so impossibly dire that only the raging fury of the Emperor's will can save you. The vastness of the 40k franchise teeters on the brink of ridiculousness when you think about the countless billions of Imperial Guardsmen and contrast that number against the million or so Space Marines according to the canon lore. A game where you play as these Guardsmen, or maybe even an Imperial tank commander, would go so fucking hard. In the heat of battle with thousands of other normal humans of the Astra Militarum, pitted against the impossibilities of chaos, the warp, orc raids, and even the mechanical horrors of the Necrons, that would be kick-ass. Your fragility as a guardsman, a man or woman in standard issue battle gear, not expected to survive 10 minutes of your first engagement, would be the most immersive game and would sell more copies than the Bible, dude. You make that sucker cross-platform and it'll make Helldivers 2's success look like fucking child's play, even though that game is probably the closest we're honestly gonna get to something like this, at least for now. Speaking of getting close to those games, Arma 3 is probably the best option with its modding scene. Mods like Operation Trebuchet have hundreds of Halo assets where you can LARP, being everything from a standard UNSC Marine to ODSTs and even some Spartans, taking on the Covenant and Insurrectionist forces from before the Halo 1 storyline. But it's still pretty kick-ass to see and use this gear outside of the Halo games. Alternatively, the mod There Is Only War is the same thing, but for Warhammer 40k. Getting to roleplay as a puny-ass guardsman is going to go about as well as you'd expect when you give the enemy the laser accuracy of Arma 3's AI. Fighting waves of Necron forces is about as futile as it fucking sounds, and you'll pretty much have to be a Space Marine for any chance of survival. There are a handful of games from the past that followed this model of gameplay, making you more or less a background character, and they were all popular, so I'm just mind blown how they didn't take off. For example, Half-Life 1 actually executed this back in 1999 and 2001 with the Opposing Forces and Blue Ship expansions, where you play as enemy combatant invading Black Mesa and as Barney Calhoun, a Black Mesa security officer defending against the Black Ops Marines, sent in to purge the facility and its occupants. Another banger that comes to mind is Mobile Suit Gundam Zeonic Front. This one's going to be a little bit niche, but in this one you actually play as the bad guys in the story, managing a team of pilots in their mobile suits through tactical missions. It's like the Rainbow Six of Mobile Suit Gundam. It was fucking amazing, and I loved it. And I feel like not a lot of people talk about this game, but when we do get together, we're like, oh my god, this game was fantastic. Why don't we have a remaster? I would do some questionable shit for this game. Devs, are you listening? Playing along with the main story, even eventually running into the main story protagonist, Amuro Ray, and his Gundam. And it's fucking terrifying. You are woefully outgunned by that thing, and it's called the White Devil by Xeon Forces for a reason. If you watched the anime and followed the lore, seeing the story unfold from the other side was incredible. It just feels like your actions really had an impact. Many of the missions you are sent on are operations that the anime story alluded to in the background, but never completely explained. Or if it did, it kind of glossed over it. So it was really awesome to play from that perspective. Look, all I'm saying is I believe that this kind of game, playing a background character in an otherwise hero-dominated but beloved franchise, is a totally untapped market that is ripe for some kick-ass titles. I mean, if Star Wars came out with a Stormtrooper game where you're a fresh troop assigned to a unit and engage rebel troops in some of the major battles from the movies, wouldn't you play that? I fucking would. The popularity of these games like Battlefront 1 and 2 should tell developers that the desire was there. They just need to lock in on creating a well-crafted story, one that just resonates, one that's grounded, one that makes sense to the lore. And I'm not talking just a few missions, I'm talking a full campaign with depth and character development that we can get lost in. That's honestly just my take though. Let me know if you agree, or hell, even if you disagree. What would you do? What games would you want to see? Now, in conclusion, is it cool to have the power fantasy characters where you're just mowing through hordes of enemies? Yeah, it's fucking cool. I cannot state in words how much I love franchises like Warhammer 40k, Elder Scrolls, and Gears of War. But not everyone wants to be the Dragonborn. Not everyone wants to always be the main character in the story. Sometimes we want to be a character we can make our own. That's how we relate to them so much more. That's how we get lost in stories and immerse ourselves in these worlds when we feel fragile and vulnerable, not all powerful. It makes you pay more attention, and because you pay more attention, you immerse yourself even more. Some people would rather take an arrow to the knee and have a story of their own to tell.